going to start with drawing a circle. Try to keep it round. If you can't draw a circle, after a while you'll be able to, but if you can't, maybe use a can or something. Okay, then you divide the circle in half. I'm saying circle and not a sphere because in this case we're drawing profile, so it's very flat. Now the face is going to be on this side, and I'm going to drop a vertical line down. Find the distance to the top of the circle. Take this distance from here to here and double it, which will give you the length of the head. If you need to check it, you can always use your pencil to see if it's approximately the same length. Proportions are very important at this point. Now, here's the quarter mark, which is halfway between the halfway point. Here's the other quarter mark. And now referring back to the front view of the head, the nose is going to lie, and for now we're just going to keep it really generalized as a triangle that lies between the halfway point and what's going to be the chin. Okay, and while we're at this, by the way, let's divide it again in half vertically, the circle, and this is going to give you, when you draw back to this point, that's going to tell you the base of the ear. Now, if you remember on the front view, that top quarter mark tells you where the forehead goes from being a front plane to a top plane. The brow comes a little bit in front of this vertical line. Okay, so now we have the nose, and 2/3 of the way between the nose and the chin, we're going to have the mouth. Now the mouth on a side view has a downward tilt to it. Another thing to bear in mind is that up until this point, okay, this was a little bit behind that vertical line, but the nose is not behind it, and this lip comes in front of it as well. The lower lip is basically on it, meaning there's a relationship this way. And actually, while we're at that, the tip of the nose, it's like you kind of clip the end of it. So you would have this type of an angle to help with the lips. Now you have, before you hit the chin, you have under the lip, and then the chin comes forward. Alright, if you remember from the front view, you would have a 45-degree angle that would tell you where the jawline changes direction. So here's the jawline. Here it's changing direction. It comes slightly forward and then hits here and then goes this way. But the chin is basically, the underplane of the chin is very horizontal. Now, if you want to get the neck on, the neck is coming from the spine. So the base of the neck is back here at this type of an angle as it comes off. And so here's the thickness of the neck. It's not straight up and down. Alright, let's get the eyebrows. Remember in the other front view, the eyebrow was 1/4 one direction, 3/4 the other. Now it's sort of reversed because you're seeing it from the side. So you're only seeing a little bit of the front, but you're seeing much more of the side. So you can think of it as 1/3 to 2/3 or 1/4 to 3/4. As far as the eye goes, you got to move it back enough that it's going to line up with the nostril, just like on the front view. And the general shape is going to be like an arrow pointing back towards where the ear is going to go. We've got the eyebrow, so now we can put in the ear. Now the eye can be all different shapes, but basically it's like an arrow shape. The front of it's going to be curved because that's where the eyeball is. And again, like I said, lines up with the nostrils. Here you're going to get a curve, and then you fit the nostril sort of paralleling that. Here's the end of the mouth. Again, it's got to line up with the halfway, well, what on a front view would have been halfway with the eye, but generally it's kind of where the pupil, the iris would be. So you got the dip of the chin. Now on a man, you're also going to get an Adam's apple. Behind the ear, here's the skull. Behind the ear, is a muscle that shifts your head from side to side. It's a long muscle. The neck is really simple. There's only 5 muscles, 5 forms to it. There's the trachea area, which would be this. There's this muscle here, which is the sternomastoid. And then coming up from the back, you would have the trapezius, which tilts the head up and down, and side to side as well. Okay, so we got these in. Now as far as the planes go, starting with the brow, it helps you place where the side plane of the head is going to be. And side plane on the nose would be right about here. Don't forget you have an underplane to the nose, which would be right about there. Here's going to be the mouth barrel. Okay, here's where the nostril is. Then you could say here's where the mouth barrel is, and the chin comes up in front of it. But getting back to the side plane, moves this way, and then there's a slight side plane, don't forget, on the eyes. And then where the cheekbone is, you would get a side plane. Now you can feel this on your own face. There's a bone that comes from the center of the ear. Again, the ear in 3 sections. And then you have this bone which forms the cheekbone. And basically this would give you your profile head. Looks like Mr. Clean, but this is the profile. Oh, and the side plane comes all the way down here. And then you have a slight underplane there. So anyway, as far as, since we're doing a side plane, let's do the hair, how it would fit on the head. In general, if a person has a full head of hair, you're going to want to put the hair starting around the quarter mark. And then the hair is always bigger than the head. It's not glued down the way some people accidentally draw it. Now on a male, it's all different hairstyles, but as far as shape goes, generally the hair here is growing almost straight up, and then when it gains length there's like a slight dip. But what also happens is the top of your head, the highest point on the top of your head is about 2/3 of the way back. It's the way the skull is positioned. Like that. So the hair actually rises right about here, and then you've got that. Now, the front of where it grows into the scalp, the easiest way to, I don't know if this is something I made up or just noticed, but if you go from the eyes and swing up this way at the temple, it comes forward and then goes back. And of course this is where you would have, your hair, you got to make sure it looks like it's growing from the head. Okay, and then once you get past reviewing what we did in the front view of the hair, we would have the hairs growing straight up here like 12 o'clock, and then here you'd have like 3 o'clock. So at this point, it's basically beginning to grow downwards. Here it's almost growing horizontal, and then it moves back. So you have the hair on the head, and then of course when it comes to the neck, it comes a little bit basically where the bottom of the ear is, depending on the person. That's generally where the hair stops growing.